So what did you decide about this?
And I'm going to start recording. Okay, all set, ready when you are.
Hang on, it's not going.
7715
7715
4588.
815. I don't have, it's not coming in.
Put your mouse.
We gotta get started.
Okay, all right.
Where?
We got a bigger one.
Under join a meeting.
Ready?
Which one do you go with?
721.
Okay, do you take attendance? Or-
731.
Should I?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, attendance for the annual meeting, 2023, Ginny Sullivan,
Here.
Nick Caimano,
Here.
Juan Gonzalez,
Here.
Tim Robinson, Dan Bruno,
Here.
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
Here. Here.
Dave O'Brien, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We have 7 out of 10.
Okay, so the slate of officers has been presented, and that would be for Chairman David O'Brien, Vice Chair Craig Leggett, Secretary Treasurer Tim Robinson.
Treasurer was Tim Robinson, Secretary was Frank Campbell.
Okay. Secretary Frank Campbell. Thank you. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Is there a motion to move?
I'll second.
Dan, second. Any further discussion?
The new treasurer.
What about that?
Who's on there? Oh, who was the other one then?
Frank.
Frank Campbell. Okay. So before you voted, I just wanted to say that I made it clear in the past year that I've been chair for a while. It's time for me to transition out, bring some people in. So this will be my last term as chair, and we're working on a transition model from here over the next few months so that we get people up to speed and do this. So just wanted to make that clear before you voted, in case you want to change your mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. My work here is done.
Good job.
Okay. There it is. So annual meeting. You have the agenda for the annual meeting.
I gave all my paperwork to Craig.
Here it is right here. Committee appointments, executive nominating, governance committees, same as IDA. Audit and Finance Committee, same as the IDA Executive Part, same as the IDA. Oh, I got. Actually, have the CDC's meeting here.
Can't hear you.
I actually had the CDC's annual meeting in front of me. Selection officer's been done, completed, appointment of chairman of an at-large member executive committee. At this point, I'd like to appoint Juan Gonzalez as the at-large. Audit and Finance Committee will be the same as currently, with the treasurer now being the chair of that. Executive Nominating Park Committee are the same as executive committee. The Governance Committee is also the same as executive committee. Appointment of consultants and official newspaper is agency counsel is Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth. Agency's official newspaper is Post Star, and agency's official depository Glens Falls National Bank. So I need a motion to accept all those.
Second.
Moved by Dan Bruno, second by Nick Caimano. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. PAAA matters, we are supposed to review and ratify all the policies. Most policies are all the same as were before. There are changes, a couple policies coming up over the next few months, but those ones that were in place still remain in place. So we asked to review these policies prior to this meeting. At this point, I'd ask for a motion to ratify the current policies. Motion by Craig, second by Juan. Any further discussion? Any other amendments recommended? All in favor? Any other legal business that may come before the agency? I guess not. So I will close this meeting. There's no other business. You want to do the CDC annual meeting? I'm gonna go hide.
Ginny Sullivan. Here. Nick Caimano,
Here.
Juan Gonzalez,
Here.
Tim Robinson,
Here.
Dan Bruno,
Here.
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We have 7 out of 10.
Okay, the slate of officers for the CDC Chair, Dave O'Brien, Vice Chair, Craig Leggett, Secretary, Brian Campbell, and Treasurer, Tim Robinson. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
No, but let me ask a question. Is it proper to say that I move to use those officers that we already had for the other, for this too? Can we do that? Instead of all the nonsense?
No, we can't, we have to.
I just want to know.
Is there a motion to approve that slate of officers? Dan, second? One, all in favor? Carry. Our job is really done.
She wants her place in the stars,
Yeah.
at least once or twice a year. So CDC, appointment of at-large member of the executive committee, again, will be Juan. Committee appointments are the same as the IDA. And appointment of consultants and newspapers is the same as the IDA. So I'll need a motion to accept all those. Motion by Dan, second by Craig. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh,
I should probably abstain to the extent of the vote on policy, especially the depository.
okay.
I do that on the first one.
Okay, I'll note that.
For that, if I could please.
All in favor? Opposed? And Ginny abstains. Same on the policies. You have all the policies and you're asked to review them before this meeting. I need a motion to ratify the policies. Motion by Craig, second by Juan. All in favor? Carried. Any other legal business to come before the committee, the board? With no other meeting, no others, I will adjourn this meeting. Okay, now we have time until the next meeting, so we might as well mute. Some people are working. I need a motion to approve minutes as mailed on January 7th for this January 17th, 2023 IDA board meeting. Moved by Dan Bruno, second by Nick Caimano. All in favor? Carried. Treasurer.
Yes, before you have the payables, current account payables totaling 39,565. There is one change. The payable to BN Communications should be 4,257.50. It's on here at 2070. The 2070 was actually just for their expenses. Their billable time was another 2135. Maybe it's right.
So is the main number,
The main number is 4257.50 that I signed off on today. Check.
I'll move it.
If there's any other questions on that payable? Yeah.
Sorry. What is our arrangement with BN? BN, we have a contract with them for to do the messaging for us. And that's billed at an hourly basis plus expenses. And a lot of the expenses that were in there were the videos they did for us. That was a big cost for the CHPE project in Adirondack Winery.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Since you brought it up, that was some of my, do we have a metric of, or do they keep metrics of who they sent the video to, how many times they watched, anything like that? It just gives us some value or return on investment type of deal. Do we have anything with them on that?
That is, will be us to distribute the videos, not to them. We'll post them on the website and make it available for people to watch when we redesign our website. Any other questions? You have a motion a second yet?
Yep,
Okay,
I'm not gonna tell you who it was, but yes, we did.
that's up to her to figure out. Okay, roll call, please.
Jenny Sullivan. Nick Caimano.
Yeah.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
Dan Bruno.
Yes.
Craig Leggett.
Yeah.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. I will make a mention that some of these, this time of year, some of the expenses are higher because we have special district taxes and other things that come up that won't necessarily be true the rest of the year. Others are billable for, for example, the substation electricity. That's figured into our arrangement with WCC with the operation of the grain operation. So our responsibilities, it's a little more complicated than that because it's a salary plus, or not salary, income plus expenses and divided two ways. So that will be that will be coming into effect as we go along. We'll start getting reports on that, so we know exactly where we stand. Okay. Yes.
You want me to go on the financial?
Oh, I think he's still on.
Payables?
Yeah, I'm just curious. We had a problem with the building we're renting out. Our electric, where the water was broken and it was getting all over the place. They had to go back and replace some of the pipes so it wouldn't leak. I would like to know about that, but. Yep.
Don't go for it.
Okay, moving on, next up, Craig.
Well, I'm sorry, this question is $11,000. I take that was special district taxes. I haven't included before that one.
Special district taxes are taxes required to pay at
Is that what?
Canal Side, yes, and at the industrial park, yes.
Where are you looking? Financial?
Not a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the balance sheet,
So we're done with that.
isn't it?
Oh, he moved on, he took over the new treasurer's job.
I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail on the state income and balance sheet, but, it's only 1 month. Obviously, we have some, work to do to bring in some project fees to cover the big enough, but the balance sheet is very healthy. There's no debt, and we have some money sitting in a money market account earning a little bit of interest. That'll help future cash flow, but basically very strong balance sheet, and nothing more to add to that at this point, but I would open up the question.
When you're
Just quick.
comparable to last year, we're really behind the ball. I think we need to come up with another $9 million. Income.
We'll be trying.
Sure. Somebody wants to donate another $10 million worth of land to it, we'll be in good shape. Yeah, no, it's a big difference, but that is the glaring difference.
Yep, it's glaring business, and I think the first half of this year is going to be probably a little slow. Because as the bankers here can tell, is that they're just having resistance to the interest rates and the terms being put on by the banks at this point,
And not only that, the cost of materials.
cost of materials.
uh,
But with the article Juan sent, we distributed, it shows why assistance is needed, because banks aren't going to approve this without the extra without the extra cash flow. So when people say they need assistance, their assistance and the project won't go forward, that's one of the key reasons we have to take consideration. They can't get financing, can't move forward. Okay, good. So any other questions? All right. Need a motion to adopt this? Motion by Craig, do I have a second? Second by Juan. All in favor?
That. That's called the world. That you should have missed.
Maybe you can call
For financials, you want a roll call?
it. Normally we don't do it for financials because we're not spending money here. It's what we spent already.
I don't want you to go out and go to jail. You do it.
I won't go to jail. I'll put you as the shouldn't say that. It's proxy. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Makes Nick happy.
I can do roll calls all day. Judy Sullivan,
Yeah.
Nick Caimano,
Oh, okay, yes.
Juan Gonzalez,
Yes.
Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Craig Leggett.
Yeah.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. All right, deviating from our schedule, agenda, we have Al Nolet here, who has kindly offered to give us an overview of pilots and their effect on people. And I think it's really interesting because I really don't think people understand pilots. And while he has a more formal presentation, I thought it was good at this point, just do the overview. And I think that's part of the education piece that we're going to get into. So Al, would you like to come up and I'll give you a.
Right now I'm on deviant, that's great. So this is a.
No, I'm deviating from the agenda deviation. So you want to speak into there so people can hear you?
Sure. So let me start by saying there's no such thing as a stupid question. Honest to God. Well, you got one right here. So this is like an abbreviated presentation. This is gonna be an overview to make sure that when I come with a formal presentation, it includes the things that are important to you. Okay. So I have an idea what I'd like to present, but that doesn't mean that it's what you need presented. The question was, are we gonna get the detail? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. So what I wanted to kind of just drop in front of you, because everybody has different levels of experience with pilot payments. One of the biggest misconceptions I run into when I hear pilots discussed, and this is strictly about just pilots, not the sales tax and the mortgage tax. That's a whole other conversation. This is just the pilot piece. So in the age of the tax cap, every treasurer, every county is got to stay within the boundaries of the tax cap formula. That tax cap formula includes pilots. So what that means is if you sign a pilot agreement with somebody,
you're not getting additional money. What happens is that new money enters the formula, and you have two options at that point. You can override the tax cap and take the additional funds, or if you're going to stay within the tax cap, you're going to have to reduce the levy. Okay, and maybe I should rewind, and the biggest misconception I've seen in my career here is when a new business comes in, pilot or no pilot, oh, that's, that's an additional $150,000 of revenue. You don't ever get more money by a new business coming in. Okay, the levy is the levy is the levy. If the county levies $54 million in taxes, the county will get $54 million in taxes. If you have wonderful growth in your taxable value, what happens is your rate will go down and there will be a shift and everybody will pay a little bit less. But the municipalities, town, village, county, school, they're not going to get $1 more than what their budget says they were going to get. If you get 100 new businesses. Okay, so that, maybe we should start there because that seems to be the most common thing. Oh, we're going to bring in a new business because it's going to bring an additional $180,000 in tax money. That's not how it works.
So the tax levy stays constant,
So the tax levy is constant, but
tax
how it's distributed
is what.
is what would fluctuate. So if you bring $1 million of new taxable value onto the roll, that's absolutely a wonderful thing, because what it will do is when you divide that into that levy that stays constant, you now are going to reduce your rate. So instead of paying $6.19 per thousand, you might pay $5.19 per thousand. So there's a cost shift, but there's no new money that enters the equation. I think that's a great place to start because that seems to be truly the most common misconception. So just, kind of remember that when you're having pilot conversations, that if you're working with a municipality that does not have any appetite to override the cap, there's not going to be new money entering the formula. So if you sign a $50,000 pilot agreement with somebody, that 50,000 plus the levy is what makes up the tax cap formula for the municipality. Again, whether it's a village, town, county, formula is the same for everybody.
But the fact is, it's also revenue, so it offsets.
Pardon?
It offsets, you don't have to increase the tax levy because you got $50,000 coming in as a pilot. Well, you can't adjust your tax cap up and over by $50,000, but it doesn't matter because you get $50,000 to off that you don't have to.
Right, so the right way to do it is to decrease the levy by 50,000.
Right.
Right, so I think that's what you're saying.
That's, thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So, but you can, as a municipality, you can override the cap. It's hugely unpopular, but you can do it. And that sets a new base. So the only way new money enters through a pilot is if the municipality has the intestinal fortitude, so to speak, to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, we're gonna bust the cap. And that's possible because you could have a municipality goes to its ratepayers and says, look, you were $619 a thousand last year. I'll keep you at $619. I'll give you a zero. Right? So in a year where they could have got a tax decrease, you can go to them and say, look, we'll keep you flat. And then override the cap, and that allows that new money in. So you can, there's a way in the age of the tax cap to take that extra money. And you can hold the taxpayers harmless. But in most formulas, you're going to see a decrease in the rate when a pilot enters. Okay, and so the most common argument you'll get the other way around is if you didn't do a pilot and they were just taxed, what would they have paid on that? What would their taxable value have been had you not entered into a pilot? Because that would still cause the same or different tax shift, right? So depending on which side of the argument you want to argue, if you don't give a pilot and they're just taxed, that tax could have generated a different number, right? So that will be what the opposition to a pilot will come at you with as well. If you didn't give them a pilot, we would have taxed them at Y, you gave them X, right? So that's the give and take on the pilot conversation. So.
Well, I think it's what people miss is that the incentives do not reduce the current tax. Our base tax stays the same, or in some cases may increase because the base value of the current property as is doesn't change. So there's no reduction in taxes. What there is incentive to spend money to bring further investment into the community.
So what happens, and I don't know if this is where you were headed, but if a business didn't come in, you'd continue paying the $619 1,000, right? So then the conversation is, well, if a business comes in, do we offer them a pilot so that they come in and potentially drop that to 519 or some other number? Or do you roll the dice and say, well, they'll come in whether we incentivize it or not? You know what I mean? So if a business doesn't come in as a result of a pilot, then, you know, everybody's at the level that they're at before the pilot, right? So there's not, in my history, there's not a pilot agreement that has caused somebody to pay more taxes. Does that make sense?
Why?
Because that money, because the levy stays flat, you can't introduce new money without decreasing other money. So the levy is a fixed number, okay?
Oh, I get it.
So you can't, with a fixed number, you can't bring one side up without bringing another side down. Right? Unless you're gonna override the cap. But again, even if you override the cap, the levy is still a fixed number.
Why would the other companies not want these pilots to come in?
So the biggest argument I've seen anti-pilot, so there's two. One, the uninformed that doesn't understand how it plays in the rate. But the more common opposition to pilots is, oh, I understand that my rate's gonna go down with a pilot, but my rate would have gone down more if you hadn't given the pilot. That's the most common oppositional stance to a pilot agreement.
Why would it have gone down more without?
Because they'll argue with you that if it was taxed, it would have been taxed with a higher amount.
Yeah.
Right, so the shift to the other taxpayers would have been less.
Yeah.
That's the most common anti-pilot conversation. Is if you had just left it alone and let it be taxed, under the assumption that they were coming in whether you gave them a pilot or not, right? If you had just left it alone, they would have been taxed at a higher rate, and Joe taxpayer would have paid less. That's the flip side of the coin, so to speak.
Is there validity to that?
Absolutely.
But there's-
If you believe that the business would have come anyway, you have to believe that first. You have to believe that premise, that a business is coming no matter what. If they only come because of the incentive, then that's a different conversation, right? So,
I mean, as we talked about before, there are several factors in people making decisions. There are companies who exist in Washington County who are looking to make a big investment in one of their plants. Now, one state they're in will give them incentives. That factors in the decision of getting financing, getting assistance, what the different labor costs are, all through this. So in some cases, they make a decision to move jobs out of New York State to another location because they can get incentives other place. And realistically, it may be number-wise less expensive to construct something in the Carolinas versus New York State. We also can look at organizations that are going to make major investments, potentially make major investments in the community, that they're looking for the location they can do it the best at. There's land in Fort Edward, there's land in Washington County, there's land in Warren County. And, you know, would they be better off building their extension at, or their investment in another town? Because overall it makes their balance sheet look a lot better. So, and coming on that, like we talked about before, financing costs are getting so hard, and getting people to invest their money. They have to see a return on their investment, and their bankers have to be willing to finance them. So those are key points to look at. And, you know, it's really a complex way. Schools, they're breaking the tax cap is not easy. They have to go to a referendum And they have to get 60% of, I think it's 60% of voters to approve an increase in breaking the tax cap. That's where the real issue is breaking the tax cap for schools. And other places you may want to do it, but they just can't afford to do it. And they can't afford to get 60% increase. Or 60% of their voters to do that. I think it's 60%. That rings a bell with it.
It might be a super majority or something like that.
That's the majority, whichever it is.
But I think breaking the tax cap should be a hard exercise. I don't think it should be easy. For any municipality.
The counterbalance of what people look at doing is there is a way to get money in. Potentially. As new money. And it's a vehicle the IDA can use, it's called a host benefit package. If we take a host benefit package, just like we did CHPE, is that gives the ability to take money in as host benefit package, not as a pilot. That's exactly what we did CHPE, which the schools are delighted about. Because you use that money for essentially whatever they want to. So that is a tool the IDA has. And I don't know if it can be overused or not overused, but some tool when we have a major investment coming, we might want to consider. Don't you think, Al? We've had that conversation.
Yes, the host benefit package does change the dynamics drastically because it doesn't enter the tax cap form. So if you can get part pilot, part host benefit, the conversation changes. Because that is a way to enter new revenue into the municipality. And like I said, tonight I just wanted to kind of touch base on the pilot alone. Because the other stuff, they won't let me talk about the other stuff.
I will.
I joke.
Host benefit package, you can talk about all night long.
No, do you know what I'm talking about? The other things. That's because those are direct revenue hits, but that's a different conversation as well. But really, I just, I wanted to make sure that I stopped by to see, what this group specifically wanted, because I want to present to my board as well, to make sure that we're all, we're all playing on the same playing field with the same knowledge base. And when I start having conversations with people, I can visit 17 supervisors and get 17 different answers. So I figured it was time to maybe have a little workshop about how this actually works. Because it's easy on a topic like this to have emotional responses. So I wanted to try to enter some numbers in, and then everybody can make informed decisions with how it actually works. I'm not saying emotions will go away, but you at least have a basis in how the function actually functions.
Yeah, better understanding. This has been very informative for me, very helpful.
Thank you.
I think that.
We have a project going through. It's the power project from Canada to New York City. And it looks like it makes Washington County for the first time in all their lives a huge amount of money, so to speak. What's good about it, what's bad about it, and why would they look at it as being bad?
And I think that's probably why this conversation is timely now, because at some point I have to have this conversation with my board. Because as that money starts entering, they're going to have some serious decisions to make. Right. So the tax cap is the very first hurdle, right? In year one, when that pilot starts, that's a number right now that is a significant impact on what my 2% tax cap is. Assuming that the tax cap stays at 2%, we've seen it at 0.64. I mean, right now, look at the market, it's going to be 2, but 2 years from now or whatever, when that money starts flowing, they're going to have to make a significant conversation, because what we've seen with the property in Fort Edward, when you have money enter, can you lower the tax rate for 10 years? When that goes away, now all of a sudden the residents are faced with a catch up, right? So they had 10 years of a decrease, and then all of a sudden that decrease is gone. And now they're faced with a 20, 28, whatever the number was %, right? So that's where the shock factor comes in. If you look at how the village and the town did it in Fort Edward, that's a great case study and how pilots can affect a municipality, because they did it differently. So I think with there's a TDI, is that the name of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, so with that plan coming in, we'll have to be very careful. How the county, capital C County, deals with that, and I would encourage each of its municipalities at the town levels as well to really take a look at. Is this the year that you override the cap and keep everybody's rate flat? Or do you go ahead and give that tax decrease for a few years, knowing that you're gonna have to come back in year 31, right? To, my grandkids paying a different rate than I'm paying. So that will be an extremely important and serious conversation with my board.
Yeah, it's something people need to keep in front of them for all those years.
Because if you look at today, it seems like a very easy decision, right?
No.
But there is an end certain to that agreement, right? So.
my statement, to everyone, has been, you need to start planning how you're gonna adjust to that levy change.
Right.
Or the real money coming in at the end of the pilot.
Because again, you can override the cap, accept the new money in without causing any harm to the taxpayer. You can keep the rate flat. Right?
Yeah.
So that when the pilot goes away, it's not this drastic, where you went down 20 and now you gotta come back up 28 to fill the gap.
You get a surplus building though, won't you?
Not necessarily, not under the
Depending
pilot.
depending on, so. Dave's used to I beat the capital investment drum quite regularly around here. We have significant capital needs that have long been ignored. That you could easily fill that new money with capital needs and not change operations at all.
Yeah.
I would argue that you could spend all of it on capital.
So these guys, with your discussions with your people here, that's one of the things you could really talk to them about is your plan for the future of what you might want to do for yourself.
Right, give them some good advice.
And they've been very good about, they finally are on board with a 5-year capital plan. The conversation now is, they took $5 million of the ARPA funds and put it away to build a new barn instead of borrow for it. So they're making some of those decisions now, thankfully.
Then why would they argue about it?
So I know I've been turning over at least 3 new supervisors next year. So every time they come, you have to educate them, right? But I mean, we've been really lucky. I've got a great group of people that I work with.
Yeah, no, and you'd be talking when you're out there, from a county level, it's treasurer, but also we're all town supervisors that would be sitting here too. So you're also thinking of how that affects on town. I know that when we fill out our tax cap form, find out what our tax cap is for us, their total assessed value comes into play as well. And so even though it may be capped at 2%, our rates have been like 2.91%.
Because you get the levy growth factor.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So again, when you bring in these new businesses,
Yeah.
that's one of the side benefits. That's again part of the unknown, right? The average bear, so to speak, doesn't know that levy growth actually enters into your tax cap formula. And again, when you can grow your levy base, and this is something that I hope everybody knows at some level. If you can grow your levy base, you drive your rate down.
Yeah.
If everybody has that basic knowledge, that's a great foundation stone to start with, right? Is levy growth is how you control your rate. That's the best way.
There could be seems like there should be an all-day symposium.
You could probably spend a day.
You and the treasurer from Fort County. The press, if they want to be there.
And I would say that even
Through this.
our real property directors really should be involved too, and kind of, because even, when you start talking about, exemptions and allowing exemptions on your rolls, I think it really would be a good exercise for every legislator at whatever level.
What do you think, Craig?
To be able to have a workshop that
There's information here.
There is information.
Education more than information.
And, I was thinking that, I'll come over. So, got the presentation going anyway, with our supervisors, but I was thinking.
So,
Yeah,
what-
and I would be more than happy, but, including Mike would be wonderful.
I just think that, in fact, I was gonna make a speech at the end of the meeting, before I knew you were coming here. We meeting the IDA. This is my second time around this. Some people in your county, even though I, for a long time, have said, I just want to help Washington County. Washington County has a need for more industry. We need to help them. But all of a sudden, there's some supervisors in your county who think that these guys, these idiots, let's just disband them because they're killing us. When in fact, we're not. We're trying to help them. And you
So-
know how we're helping them. And they should know that, and apparently they don't.
So I did an analysis of the projects we've done over the past 4 years. Only one has been Washington County.
Only what?
Only one has been in Washington County.
But
There
now.
are two more coming up that are great
So one thing.
great projects to come up for Washington County that's going to both retain and attract substantial numbers of jobs.
Yeah,
I obviously can't speak for my board or any
no.
fraction thereof, but one thing that I will share, because it is important. One of the things that is unfortunate. I don't know if it's as much the pilots as it is the other stuff. The sales tax and the mortgage tax forgiveness, those are real numbers, okay? And again, I won't go off on a tangent, but I will. Because there is some resistance, I think on both boards to some level. Understand that some of the underlying resistance isn't the pilot. It's the
The
abatements.
other stuff, yeah.
So,
Because those are real dollars.
I want
Right,
to
those
address
are-
that.
Do what?
I want to address that.
Okay, I'm just,
We do a cost benefit analysis for every single project we've done. We've been mandated to do that for years. And the return on the cost benefit is jobs, economic development. The return on it is increase in property values for the project over the years. And when we're looking at returns on investment of 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, in some cases, a lot more to 1. There's a reason for that. The reason is that it helps attract people here, move their jobs. And I know it's a direct number, but it's bringing jobs. It's bringing increased assessed value.
and one thing that I have, toyed with, I have it in a, we'll call it a draft stage, for at least the Washington County side. Because I know how our sales tax is distributed, right? So I have a little Excel tool that I could share with the chairman. And he would be able to plug in a number and it would show him the economic impact on Washington County first. So if you were looking at a project, you could punch in, okay, they're anticipated to spend $20 million. What's 3% of that 20 million? And then how is that 20 million then distributed to the 17 towns? I have a tool that will show you that. And if I was given the formula for Warren County, that could be incorporated in that same tool. And every time you had a presentation from a business, this body could actually enter, the impact of that decision.
But we already do that.
Okay,
We already do that in the cost benefit analysis. The question was not on projects. The question was on projects that don't bring jobs or increases in economic value and increased sales tax. That's where the discussion was. The
and I've
discussion
been
was not
very
on
frank
that.
with you on that. So. Yeah. When there's a project that doesn't return, that's a bigger issue, right?
That's the argument against solar, or a good part of it.
Mhm.
Doesn't generate any jobs,
Right.
doesn't generate any sales tax.
Any forgiveness won't be paid back,
But the
right?
pilot does a good job for you in the long run. They could.
If you believe that they were coming no matter what, then you could argue that the pilot wasn't necessary. Right. But you have to first believe that they weren't coming without it. Right, so that seems to be the biggest bone of contention is, because if they were coming anyway, your pilot didn't solve anything, right? The pilot, if it got them to come, whole different conversation.
And that's exactly what people.
And I don't know if you can prove or disprove that, right?
Hey,
Why are we giving them, if they didn't come here, somebody else will? Because of the nature of that market right now, solar. You know, there are a lot of people out there for, now I won't go into detail on that, why the, you know, tax credits, all this stuff.
Right.
They will initiate a project, keep it for a few years and then sell those tax credits, all that stuff. But anyway, that's the big argument I get is, hey, why are we subsidizing these people who don't generate jobs and sales tax or whatever? And even if we didn't incentivize them, somebody else will come in and do it. Because there's a lot of desire push right now for solar. So anyway.
And I, you know, I come on the fiscal side of things tonight, not the social, you know, I'm not here for the touchy-feely stuff, right?
No, what you did open up, at least my was, is the potential, the pilot. Forget about the company that wants to come here and do they need it or why not need it. The people who are still here, who are gonna have a savings on their rate for some period of time, have a positive in their own way, and they don't know that.
We have a couple of communities in our county, two come to mind that are really in need of some help, right? So anytime that you can bring something new to their communities, not only to increase the tax base, but just the community in general, right? So then you get into philosophical, well, is this business a value add? That's not my role.
No,
I look
you're
at
a numbers guy.
I'm a numbers guy, right? So I can teach you what that business will do to the tax roll and to the tax rate. And that's where, you know, I think at least some kind of basic knowledge is helpful.
Yes.
I think that the main thing people take away when they hear incentives is tax breaks. We don't give any tax breaks.
We don't want,
We don't give any tax property breaks. No property that we give a pilot to is gonna pay less taxes. They're gonna pay more, but it's gonna be in potential situations. It is phased in over a period of time, and that's to encourage them to invest in the community.
And I think that piece is in the formal presentation because one of the, and thanks for bringing that up, Dave, because I actually forgot. One of the misconceptions is just what he said, because remember, the pilot is on the improvement. The tax that was there before the pilot remains. And I don't think that that's a commonly known too. Right, the pilot is always on the improvement.
yeah,
Right, so there's never a point where you have decreased the taxable value for the property.
that's hard to drive through people's heads.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is another important piece of this puzzle. Is you're not, if you had $1 million property, it's still $1 million, your pilot is on the improvement. That you didn't drop the $1 million down to $500,000 and then give a pilot. That $1 million still stands and you gave a pilot on the improvement. Again, another important piece of that puzzle.
But here's a question.
Sir,
Should we, I'm looking at you, boss. Should we, since it kind of blackens the window, should we give up doing the mortgage and the chase? Well, I was just thinking that tends to
If
make
the
an
return,
argument.
if the return on investment is there, it's worthwhile. If the return on investment is not there, it's not worthwhile.
What
When you start factoring in the value of jobs over the 10 years of the pilot, 5 jobs at $40,000 a piece is $200,000 a year. That's $2 million coming to the community for employment.
Return on investment, whose investment? The county
It's
or the
Return on investments.
development?
Return on investment is the wrong word. The cost benefit analysis
Yeah.
to give them pilots. That's the correct terminology, is cost benefit analysis.
Sorry, because the
If
development.
it's bringing in 4, 5, 10 to 1, yes, but remember, they have an investment to make. They got to pay for that investment somehow. They got to get financing for the investment. And as much as they want to do a project that they can't get it financed, and this lets them get it financed. And here's a banker here, he can talk
Well,
about the impact.
Well,
Commercial banking.
finance would be one thing, but the mortgage tax, the sales tax stuff, if that's gonna.
No, man, Nick, that's part of the incentive for them to get the pilot.
I know, but he brought in some ideas of the people who are already here. If the pilot is the one thing you can sell for them, for the towns. But it's-
And on a
That's
sales,
not, this isn't the conversation for that.
on a sales tax, the gamble that you're making as an IDA is that for every $100,000 that you forgive, those 5 jobs are gonna return more than that back. So that's the gamble you make.
Is there too much, are there too many things for the people who argue against us to sink in their mind? Should we
Nick,
stick on one thing?
The conversation has been about sales tax and mortgage tax for solar, not for other projects. That's where the conversation has been, because
Yeah.
they look at the investment coming back based on the cost benefit analysis to make that decision. That's where we make our decision.
Okay,
Because I would think that's, and I can't speak for a legislator and I won't, but my gut tells me that if you give a sales tax forgiveness to a hotel on the strip in Lake George, your gamble is that coming back to you.
Multifold.
Right, I mean, that's the gamble you make as an entity, right? So that's for you all to deliberate and make sense of.
Okay. Great.
For example, we did a pilot agreement with Etain up in town center, just talked with them the other day. They went from 25 to 50 employees now, you know, so that's it within our,
More
in
coming.
our community. And, you know, we gave them, pretty good tax incentive. So, you know, but it has payback to it, an immediate payback.
And again, now since, one of the silver linings with COVID was when people were stuck in their houses, they learned that how easy it was to shop from the comfort of their couch, right?
Right.
And now, even though the world has opened back up, people have remembered how easy and wonderful it was. And with sales tax being point of delivery, now you have a different conversation, because if you're you give a break in a town, you're gambling that the investment is going to be, your people are going to now have 25 more jobs, and those 25 jobs are going to go out and do some online shopping and have it drop to their front step, right? So that's
Yeah.
the gamble,
That's the
right?
thing. Yeah.
Thanks, Al. Ron?
Seconds. All of it's great, love it all, but if you have a chance to get that case study of the core network pilot into your brief without making it too long, we'd love to see that, since you brought that one up. But also, just the chess pieces here moving around, not to get into the weeds of any of the data, but the uninformed and those that, said that they would get more. How do we stay on that topic now in 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? As you said, superintendents are coming and going. How do we get the general public to, somebody used the word brainwashing last meeting, which I disagree with, but how do we get, and I'm not pointing to you, but how do we get this information and stay consistent with it in order to be able, and maybe your brief is part of the answer to that as well. Maybe that's on us to figure out, but just something to think about is how do you translate that when you speak to the superintendents, but that same brief won't be as effective for Joe sitting at the coffee shop at Stewart's. So how do we make that transition so we can get more or less uninformed and more information in the hands of the public, which is watching us.
So hopefully the final workshop, whatever it turns out to be, whether it's joint counties, whether I travel around and give it, or in a perfect world, I would be able to leave you with a tool that for this agency, you could have a new member orientation that included that presentation as a basis to jump off from. And even at the counties, but the budget officer and I have he's not here tonight, but we've had conversations about, shouldn't we really begin some kind of every month, pick a topic and make sure that we have little workshops about, tax rates get confusing if you don't deal with them every day. Exemptions get confusing if you don't deal with them every day. Tax foreclosure gets confusing when you don't deal with it every day. There are several things in county government that if you don't work with them on a regular basis, so we have talked about some kind of, because we do a new board member orientation, but it's really, where the bathrooms are and how to turn the switches on, right? So you kind of learn trial by fire as a legislator. You all know
All right.
who have sat in those seats. So
We have other things to move on to, Al. Thanks for your information. We'll talk
I
later.
just got the hook.
I appreciate it.
Thanks,
No,
Al.
thank-
All right,
Very well done, very informative.
canal side, master plan update. Dan?
We had a meeting with our consultant, Labella, on February 15th at their office at 1:30 PM. We covered a number of topics. We looked at, it started the work necessary to move forward with the development of sanitary sewer service to the site, which it needs, and also looking at the water system, see if that requires any modifications, upgrades, and also some gas, natural gas and electric. And there are a number of field investigations which need to be conducted, cultural resources, aquatic resources, geotechnical, the survey and corridor assessment that will assess the route that we want to take, yes.
When you say water system right there, for the canal side or for the town?
For canal. No, we're not upgrading anything in town except for the Village of Hudson Falls, or the Washington County Sewer District, the 1 or 2, whatever it is. Two. Anyway, Jason Dennell, the director of that, and Environmental Design Partnership, which is the engineer they've hired, are looking at a separation project, which is, if any of you recall, I wouldn't blame if you didn't. We need to mitigate 400,000 gallons of what we call inflow and infiltration to the sanitary system. We got to get rid of 400,000 gallons of stormwater that comes into it. We don't want to treat that. In order for us to get, to be able to introduce 100,000 gallons of sanitary sewer to the Washington County Sewer District. So, as I said, the sewer district, Jason Dennell and his people, and Environmental Design Partnership are zeroing in, or have zeroed in on an area in Hudson Falls where they could accomplish that and more. And they're in the initial stages of that, and this has to all be sold to and blessed by DEC, and we, the IDA, will hopefully participate in that and get the benefit that we need without having to do some other separate project. So that was discussed and is discussed, and at some point we need to I think we need to communicate with Village of Hudson Falls and also DEC. That'll happen. But so look at what wastewater conveyance design, and again the water conveyance design and the overall project schedule. We need to complete this engineering by the end of September, because we have a grant that will expire after that. And we have our next meeting with the consultant. And we have Bob Holmes from Jared Engineering. We've retained him to help us oversee Labella's efforts. So he's in these meetings and everything over the shoulder kind of thing. This is a lot of money here. It's north of $500,000 for this, just this design. That's no construction or anything.
So he's like our CI or.
Yep.
And that money can be billed against our congressional grant.
So, do you have any questions?
And
Greg?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the final product now is going to be on just conceptual. It's almost, is this like a pre-engineering?
No, this is detailed, this will be detailed design for these systems, for the wastewater conveyance system. It'll be pump station needed, size of the pipe, the routing, all the details for constructing that. A lot of civil details with it. And also, as I said, the water system. I happen to think it's okay, but they're going to take a look at it. I don't think we need to do much of anything with that. partially because we don't know what the demand will be at this site. If and when hopefully someone either purchases it or we get some long-term arrangement, if someone comes in there. You don't know what their water demands are, so let's talk about water tank and all this. Personally, from an engineering standpoint, it's too early to entertain that. You could build a 100,000 gallon surge tank, and somebody comes in and says, hey, our process doesn't require any water, very little water, and we need some for restrooms, potable water for coffee. So I'm being a little
Facetious.
facetious, thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
So these drawings, will they be?
it will
ready
go,
for bid?
it will go to bid.
Good, yeah, I knew we were getting that far down track and we just wanted to nail
No,
down.
that's fine.
Yep.
I don't know sometimes if I give enough information, so if you have any questions, feel free.
Okay.
I think I can answer most of them. So that's it for now. We have these meetings with the consultant, with Lavella, every other week, bi-weekly. And we'll continue with that and keep you abreast of progress.
So what if you don't buying from Hudson Falls, something like this plan, this plan is not one.
No, there will be buy-in from Hudson Falls. It's, how do I phrase this? It's not whether Hudson Falls buys in because it's the Washington County Sewer District. It's their system maintained primarily by them in some village, I guess. I don't know what the arrangement is there. But Washington County Sewer District number 2 has to implement these improvements. Real, very broad brush. When you take wastewater at a wastewater treatment plant, you can assign a number to that, a good number of value to treating that. So you don't want to be let's say your daily inflow is 100,000 gallons and 50,000 gallons of that is stormwater, groundwater, whatever. And those 100,000 gallons cost you, say $1, real easily, $1 a gallon to treat. If you didn't have to treat 50,000 gallons of that, that's a huge savings. Conversely, if you're treating it, you're throwing a lot of money away. So they being the Washington County Sewer District, want to and need to do this. And some of it,
Regardless of the IDA.
right, the idea or the village, really, some of it is mandated by CDC as well. Because they look at this and say, hey, you've got a lot of inflow and infiltration and you need to get that out.
And that was resolution 72, Dave. I'm just trying to connect the dots here. That was the bond for the sewer system line
Resolution 72.
From the Board of Supervisors meeting. I was just curious that Washington County Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
Regarding the
Yeah.
issuance of the $2 million bond for this project.
Yeah.
So, I think Washington County was where it said yes. Just circling back.
Right. And as Dave stated earlier, we turned over the access road to Canal Side to the town, so they will maintain it.
Okay. Any other questions? Another piece of agenda, we are doing what's called a NEPA and seeker. And NEPA and seeker required for the congressional fund and seeker is required for the other part for the construction. Part of what we got was a letter that was sent out to you from the town of Fort Edward, the village of Fort Edward. They are looking for a deposit against the cost, attorney costs of doing the NEPA and seeker because they have to be lead agency for this. We can't be lead agency. So the $2,000 a deposit among against that. They don't think it's going to be more than that. That is also chargeable to the congressional fund for the MBRC grant. So it's not in our pocket, but I need an authorization from the board to go ahead and commit to that. Motion by Dan. Second by Juan. Any further discussion?
Yeah, when I read this letter, I was trying to figure out. So. The village is taking
Taking the lead agency, yes.
lead agency. And because, they're gonna incur costs, do they usually charge?
They usually charge developers for it, and we're considered a developer.
We pay some taxes. I'm sorry. Great. We pay some taxes.
Right, I was just gonna say.
That has nothing to do with, that was paid to the, that was paid to the county.
It shows our, good faith.
Okay,
Right.
all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Second thing is we're
Sorry, yeah.
yeah, it was.
Yes, Dan.
Dan and Juan. The second item is we're in the process of transferring the road to, from the Kingsbury line to the front gate to the town of Fort Edward, as agreed on by Fort Edward. We also agreed to pay the title costs on that. We had assumed that when we did it was about $1,000. It turns out it's $3,000. So we'll need board authorization to pay the title fee, title costs. And it was much higher than that. We were able to get it lowered by about 50%.
So,
Somebody, Dan, second by Tim.
now, who, does the town get the title insurance?
Yeah,
Yes,
So we're paying for them to get.
that was.
that was
agreed.
their, yeah, that was.
Which I think, pretty good investment.
That's our.
We're not maintaining that road, that access. We got right, $3,000.
Well, we could end up maintaining the entire road at thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Remember, the village didn't get any money in that tax sale. That all went to the county. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The other item business is the lease for CHPE for the process is going to start in March. So that'll be income of $12,800 a month we'll be getting from that. So help to pay your expenses there. Unfinished business, we're still waiting till March 1st for, excuse me, I should back up. Any questions on the lease? Staff report, he's not here. Unfinished business, UTEP, we're still waiting for the additional comments until March 1st. We got a few, but I'm assuming more will trickle in over the next few days, but we'll see. Once that's done, we'll share comments with the board and we'll have a meeting to discuss impact. New Leaf, who is a solar company who wants to put the solar on the IDA park up in Queensbury. Did a walk through the property on Wednesday. I don't know what the results were, so we're waiting for that. So
Who did the walk?
whoever New Leaf's contractor was.
But I drove over there yesterday, the day before, to take a look, see what was going on. There's obviously no activity. I'm curious where the stand is.
Just walking through, we're not even to the agreement stage yet. They're still going through the due diligence process. They've got to get DEC approval. They've got to get U.S. Army Corps of Engineer approval. What they need to do before they can execute a contract with us. Any other questions on that? Been working on that for 7 months now. New business solar update. We have sent out a new policy for solar. Highlights is that we will not do, excuse me, I gotta get back to it. We will not do solar projects without permission of the municipalities involved. Real estate partially abated, and talk about termination based on per megawatt. Sales tax and mortgage tax, putting qualifiers on that. We will not charge sales tax and mortgage tax, except if there is convincing reasons to encourage the use of unbuildable properties. I know a lot of people are concerned about putting solar projects on usable land. But we got landfills, we have wetlands out there. If we incentivize them to use those unbuildable properties, which is really not gonna get much other use other than solar or something else like that, we should consider it. So that's what we're looking at. So that was a draft. Has anyone had a chance to look at that as it was sent out?
When was that sent out?
The package?
One of the packages.
Within the package that you got.
Didn't see it. So I'll look at it.
I think with the sales tax related stacks out. it's a pretty good adjustment.
With the essentially want to encourage
Correct.
use of wetlands or
Yep.
landfills.
On an accession basis.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So if we were to adopt that. Right?
Mhm.
Where we have the one entity coming back.
we have an approved application that they've asked for an adjustment to, so. We'll have to determine that when we come down to where we're going. That'll be up to the board whether they want to continue with the award they gave them or make a change.
But we're adjusting our policy,
Correct.
so. People should consider whether we want to make that change at the time of the vote. Okay?
Correct.
How does it affect school taxes? Comes up as a discussion point. So usually when the IDA grants the tax incentive,
Mhm.
that rate that the pilot is based upon, base value plus whatever assessment value over the years, that is across the board. It's on county rolls and it also affects the
All taxing municipalities, yes.
schools use, right?
Mhm.
So that's a general thing. Is there ever a separating out? This applies to towns, village and county, but not school?
I defer to legal advice.
Again, I don't think I understand your question. Is there a,
Schools are exempt from the exemption. That,
okay,
you know, if that makes sense. That, is there any separating out? This applies to all municipal properties. And whether it's a county.
So we sort of covered that in terms of policy that if that taxing jurisdiction does not say they want to go to pilot, we just don't go forward with it.
Okay.
That's what our policy says. We need the approval of taxing jurisdictions to be involved in.
you could have a scenario where the pilot is for, say, just town and county taxes.
Correct.
Yeah, you can do that.
The
You
school
can,
would be a sub.
yeah, they wouldn't be under the pilot. The school would just be under as a regular tax bill.
When you're not in this tax incentive, you might, you know, go with the town, county, but school might say, "Well, then,"
But in that case, it doesn't make sense for the company to do it.
yeah. Okay,
So this is strictly about on solar. So what's the pleasure of the board? You want more time to digest it or,
yeah, I want to think of it. So I didn't look at it.
okay. Make sure Alex sends it out to everyone.
Thank
Well,
you.
it looks good. I was wondering about on the range of years versus 15, 25 years. Is there at some point where perhaps internally we have the sheet or, you know, or something that puts it from 15 to 20 or 25?
It's evaluation of the project.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Case by case.
case by case. Like every one of our projects is on a case by case basis.
Right.
Okay. Next meeting. Next item is we received a mutual non-disclosure agreement from Irving Tissue. They're looking to talk to us about something they may have in mind doing. If that's sign an NDA, with an NDA, we can't communicate what we're doing. If it's under an NDA and there is no materials given to the IDA. So if materials are given to the IDA for us to carry out there and bring back, that becomes public documentation. If we do not have those in our physical possession, it's still based on the confidentiality agreement. And I get to say whatever they're going to do potentially, and I have no idea what it is at this point. That's up for them to announce, not for us. And they need their space to get their plans together. Is that a good analysis?
It's good for 1 year.
It's good for 1 year. And yes. So because it binds the IDA, I need approval of the board to be able to sign this. Motion by Tim, second by Craig. And Jenny and Dan.
Everybody else.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think that's all I had. Brother, any public comments?
Any comments?
Public comments. Things you can say in public.
Stand back there.
Any board comments?
Yeah. I thought that was great.
I thought it was great.
think You should consider, you and the CEO
Mhm.
should consider putting together some kind of a morning breakfast conference. And you invite town supervisors and their assessors. You invite school finance people. And you have them come in there and make sure they understand all this, because I'm sure most of us don't understand all of it. I think that would be a great opportunity. A morning, say, look, you want to learn something? This is what we're trying to work for you, how we're going to try to work for you. And we're going to have just him, maybe our treasurer, and I don't know. But that was an excellent thing. And by the way, the attorney should be there too. But we need to tell people better what we're doing, I think. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, that's part of the goal of hiring being, right?
No, he can't do it. He can't do it. He can put it together, but he can't do it because he doesn't know what that guy knows. Or he knows.
Part of the transition plan is to have monthly educational sessions for the board.
Yeah, but we can't, I don't want to, I'm gonna do it on a monthly basis, that's fine. But I think we should kick it off with some kind of a,
Understood,
huh? Yeah,
understood.
okay.
Any other comments? This meeting's adjourned,
Hey,
so
wow.